If you could travel back 500 years with nothing but the clothes you stand in, what could you show our ancestors that would help or amaze them? Calculus. And more. The average engineer mathematician with a master's has more knowledge of math, but perhaps lacking in talent, than many of the old masters. 500 years ago, the part of NW England I live in was pretty much pre-industrial agriculture. There is very little I could teach those folk that would give them anything that might help advance them. They would have been too isolated from the major urban centers to allow them much difference. However, the key thing that would improve their lives, and possibly allow further innovations, is improvements to agricultural design and farming practice. In 1500 AD, farmers here had a moldboard plows, that is, ones that allowed them to turn the soil, but they didn't have reversible plows that reduced the amount of work because they could be used in both directions on the same field. It would also be possible to demonstrate the use of crop rotation to increase crop yields. The problem is that both these changes were only going to make a real difference when the fundamental social relations were challenged. 1500 AD in the UK was still dominated by feudalism. The peasantry pretty much did what was needed to give their surplus food to the landlord and get enough for them. Any extra food would only fill his belly. Technological improvements on their own were not going to be enough to change the life of the peasantry fundamentally. That required a challenge to the status quo. Of course, technological changes helped drive this change, but weren't the key factor. In fact, the lack of technological innovation in agriculture for much of the feudal period is testament to a society that was changing very slowly. In effect, the best gift you could take back would be an argument that feudalism was a brake on the further development of human society, in which case, you'd either be arguing revolution, which would get you beheaded by the local lord, until demands for change became much more mainstream in the mid-1650s, or offering a few limited technological improvements. Brilliant answer, although I thought NW England was still like that today. I'd tell my native brothers to not accept the white man. Nah, I'm joking. Though I really do wonder how the Native American society would be like had it been given more time. They could have had better weapons and better economy, but the European diseases would have still killed them. The settlers didn't really go to war with the native at the start, but whole villages of natives were dying and the Europeans would just move into the new free land. From 1600 to 1800, nearly 90% of natives died. Hygiene. Don't think they'd figured out how germs and disease got passed along by then, especially doctors and the like, but I could be wrong. The robot. I would have gone with the electric boogaloo. It's a much better dance. First, I'd teach doctors to wash their hands before they work on people. Boom. Just saved thousands of lives. Second, pasteurization. Thousands more saved. Then I'd round out my trip by explaining antibiotics. Explaining antibiotics isn't much help. Pretty sure my bra would just astound them. I could show them my really bad fashion sense. Alright, today's lesson is about pajamas. Indoor plumbing. Imagine what may have been invented if everyone didn't have to stop and either run outside to crap or dump their crap bucket in the street. Total loss of concentration. Ancient Romans had indoor plumbing and in-floor heating as well. I would show them how to make a bicycle. Pretty easy to make with the tech of the times, and would revolutionize travel at a time when only the rich had horses. Good thinking, although tires would be an issue, I imagine. I'm currently sitting at home in my underpants. I'd be screwed if I fell through a time portal. I'm glad he managed to post this while being sucked back through time. I could give them the snuggie I am wearing, thereby advancing civilization millions of years. I suddenly expelled a lot of air from my nose. CPR. Well, I hope you brought an Eid. I would say, in 470 years invest in Apple. You won't regret it. Also, don't waste money on Microsoft ME. I'd show them my water-resistant Dickies pants and watch as they gather the rope, pitchforks, stones and torches in preparation to hang and stone me for being a witch with magic devil pants. Nothing. I am 7 stories up on the west coast of Canada. If I go back in time 500 years, I fall to my death. Haven't seen this yet, but my knowledge of geography, even if it is rather basic, Give me a map from that time and let me draw in all the missing lands, fix some mistakes, and suddenly I'm a genius cartographer. Heck, I can get Europeans across what is now Canada sooner and show them where mountain passes are, and at the least, where to Finn's coal deposits. Not that coal deposits in the middle of nowhere are gonna be greatly valued at that time. Can also direct people to Australia, New Zealand, Antarctica. Not sure why they'd want to go there, but it can be done. If I didn't die due to knife fur allergies and somehow survived being transported to Edmonton in the middle of November and then found my way to Europeans, I think my basic knowledge of the Americas would be super valuable, especially because I would have emerged from the woods in the Americas, so I can say I know all this because I had been there. A nicer thought would be that I would help Native Americans out, since they'd be the only people near me. I couldn't. Heck, a sneeze from me may spark the epidemic that kills them all, but I could try and teach them a bit about what their land is worth, how to negotiate with white men, that alcohol, hard stuff especially, is better suited to cleaning than drinking, which bits of land to keep for themselves, mainly for way later generations so they have giant oil reserves, germ theory, and as I pass east and hopefully cross a tribe who has copper ore, but no metalworking skills, try and spend some time with them developing it. Not that I know anything, but the idea heat this, make weapons tools from melted material seems to be ahead of the times. Oh, and plant stones carved with Arnold writings everywhere, just to frick with people. When was elastic invented? My hair tie and knicker bra elastic could be priceless in the past. I could gather a group of musicians and create a heck of a lot of music. I could invent a paper lip. Being a 6-foot tall female would probably freak them out a bit. Hey, I could join a circus. I could be the freakishly tall woman. I could try to introduce sterilization and germ theory, but I'd probably fail. Being a 6-foot tall female would probably freak them out a bit. If you go back in time, you must refer to yourself as Brienne of Tarth. For my freshman engineering project I built a windmill that generated electricity. Gimme lots of copper wire and some magnets and I'll show you a good time. Also I could do some crap like Nostradamus and write a book about the future. Except in my case it'll be accurate. I'll include drawings too. And since I'm an aerospace engineer they'd all be space related. First of all I'm Nigerian so I have even more crap to deal with than you guys. The number one thing I'd need to do of course is warn them about the white men who would be coming 300 years later. Then I'd teach my ancestors about sterilization, pasteurization and show them how to make penicillin. I'd set up a currency that was tied to gold so that they wouldn't give it all away to the white man later whilst vastly undervalued. Next I'd teach them all the maths, physics, chemistry and biology I know. So starting simple and building up as far as I remember. Even though I'm just one guy I like to think I know enough to really put them far ahead. I'd then leave them with schematics and drawings of stuff from the future that they should be striving to build. Unfortunately I don't know enough about manufacturing but I could at least point them in the right direction. I would invent the press, or actually enhance the printing press machines that they have. Then I'd write tons of books about science, physics, medicine from the most basic level to the most advanced material. I am good with physics so I think I could actually teach them a lot, even some quantum physics. I wouldn't stop writing for the rest of my life, because I know I'm right and I don't actually have to investigate things, so I'd just point to them what to test to prove that what I'm saying is true. Also, as some people have already said, pasteurization and washing your hands would be some of the first things to teach them. Because I know I'm right and I don't actually have to investigate things, so I just point to them what to test to prove that what I'm saying is true. Love this bit. I would amaze them by showing them margarine, then saying I can't believe it's not butter. I would show them a camera and tell them that there are little demons inside that paint the picture at incredible speeds. You'll be burnt at the stake immediately. Worth it though. I'd probably play them some music that they haven't heard yet. If I could get a hold of an organ or harpsichord, I'd play them some Bach and Vivaldi. Anything too late, like Beethoven or later in the Romantic period they probably wouldn't understand and would just think is bad. But some Bach and maybe even Mozart they would appreciate and probably be amazed by. Wish I could say the same, but I'd probably only remember Bieber and Nickelback. I would quickly be put to death. I was chatting with a military friend once about this and he said he could take out an entire platoon with a handful of men by simply hiding and fighting rather than dressing in red and marching straight at the enemy. The clothes I stand in would be pretty Amazon to them. Your reply alone is Amazon in itself. As a historian, I would just go back in time and become a world famous soothsayer. Rock, paper, scissors. I'd patent it and make a fortune. I would teach them how to make real good booze, because imagine the sweet nectars we could be drinking now if our ancestors knew how to make decent drinks way back in the day. I would also teach them about the aerofoil. Look how far we have come in 100 years. Imagine how far we will be in another 400. Again, imagine how much farther along in aviation and space flight if the aerofoil had been invented 500 years ago. Actually, a solid knowledge of home brewing and distilling would be huge, even beyond the tasty drinks you could make. I've thought about this and the only thing I could possibly do is gesture in the direction of the printing press. I mean, I know vaguely the idea, so someone cleverer than me could do the hard bits. Also penicillin. I'm allergic to it, but I could again gesture that a particular mold, not sure which one, has antibiotic properties. Essentially, I am useless. Zipper? Not bad. I can make your nose disappear. I know a fair bit about chemistry and physics, so that, but I wouldn't tell them I was from the future. I would quickly ditch, maybe burn, all of my clothing, then run flat out and headbutt a tree, then try to make contact with 1512 civilization, aim for a wealthy household, pretend to have amnesia, be taken in, recover slowly, remember nothing of personal significance, ask for paper and a pen, then start to outline Rutherford's gold foil experiment, draw a label diagram of a simple battery, rudimentary schematic of the blast furnace, Hall process, Haber process. That's all I remember you can say, looking distressed. I try and this is all that comes back to me. Maybe my father was a scientist. I don't know. So much more fun than flat out being like, hey, I'm from the future. Plus somebody still has to prove all the junk I wrote down. So, you know, scientific process still intact. Interchangeable parts. It would revolutionize industry and warfare, but ultimately speed up progress and enhance everyone's lives. I'd try to get the carpenter guilds to form some major IKEA-like distribution center in one city, and then have licensed repair guys and salesmen spread out all over. Our slogan would something like sleep on a bed tonight. Easy, don't say anything, get rich king figure, change the world by ruling it. I would help by ruling them. I'd teach everyone how to juggle. Good times. Anyone who has an interest in this kind of time travel stuff should read the manga Jin. It's about a modern neurosurgeon that is sent back to 17th century Japan and starts doing doctor stuff. I just read all the available chapters. Dang, what a good manga. Let's face it, if any of us went back right now, with no preparation, 90% of us would be dead within a week. I don't think we're teaching anybody anything. Reading in silence. Armpit farting. I'd show them how to make a fire with an orange. Nothing but the clothes I stand in. I'd be naked holding an iPhone. I'd be burned. Only if you're circumcised. You have been visited by the source Chihuahua. You will be blessed with good pasta, but only if you comment simmer well. Papa simmer well, Papa. Like and subscribe, you magnificent person.